Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show. In fact, episode 63. Who knew? In this week's show, I explore disappointment. Have you ever been disappointed? I'm sure you have. I've been disappointed time and time and time again. It's difficult to live life without being disappointed. This week I'm going to share with you 8 ways to handle disappointment. And I think handling disappointment is a crucial skill that will make a massive difference to your life and the lives of those around you. Stick around, find out what these 8 useful ways are. This weekly show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S. Self-awareness plus passion equals success. Your self-awareness ever increasing because it's not fixed. Your increasing self-awareness plus discovering and pursuing your passion will give you success. And your success is whatever you think it is. But my favourite definition of success, and regular listeners and viewers would know this, is that success is the progressive realisation of a worthy ideal. Since 1993, when I left my successful legal career to become Australasia's passion provocateur, I have inspired, provoked, educated audiences through speeches, conferences, longer workshops, seminars, to discover and pursue passion. It makes the world of difference. It was a big risk to leave a successful legal career. I have written 2 books, Passionate People Produce and Passionate Performance, and I consider myself to be one of the world's experts in this subject of passion and understanding what a magnificent resource it is for you. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous principle, the unexamined life is not worth living. So I hope I provoke you to continually examine your life. You can see I'm wearing my red jacket. Red, the colour of passion, designed when you look at me to make you think of passion. And then when you see red, when you see a bright red car, you go, gosh, passion. Am I pursuing my passion? And I stress to you that in your work, there are 2 ways to pursue your passion. Number 1 is that the work that you are doing, you're passionate about. Or secondly, that the income that your work generates for you, the rewards that your work generates for you, you might not be passionate about your work, but that income enables you to pursue your passion. Your passion might be eliminating poverty on the planet. Well, you might not be passionate about your work, but you're so good at it, it generates rewards, and your deep joy comes from removing poverty. Or for teaching kids to sing, like an interesting charity called The Song Room that brings music to kids. Each week in this show, I explore one big idea, because too many ideas can confuse us. This week, you already know what the idea is. It's about handling disappointment. I also share with you some practical resources to help you implement the idea that I'm sharing with you. A song, a book, a quote, a joke, we need some humour, a spiritual tip, a health tip. This show is definitely not politically correct. So if you only listen to politically correct crap, this is not the place for you. I subscribe to useful addictions. One of them, as you know, is coffee. And my friend Peter has seduced me into investing in some coffee beans. So I'm going to do that. I've agreed to do that so that Julie and I can grind our own coffee and compare it to the wonderful Nespresso product. I'll have to report to you on that, because it's quite seductive, being able to put that little capsule into the Nespresso machine. I must also say that sometimes I enjoy instant coffee. My other friend, Ken, said he loves Moccona Ristretto number 12, quite strong, and I've been enjoying that as well, you see. So I'm not set in my ways about coffee, and I hope I'm not set in my ways about anything, because it is an open mind that we need in these amazingly changing times. So this show is also designed to open your minds to possibility. I also subscribe, and this show subscribes to the view that we have a spiritual life. That's why we have a spiritual tip. You are much more than what you can see or the thoughts, the conscious thoughts that you have. Isn't that an exciting possibility? So what's happened on the planet in the past week? Well, in many states of Australia, it's a public holiday tomorrow, so this is allegedly a long weekend, but because Victoria's had its fourth lockdown, it's come out to some degree last Thursday at the end of that lockdown of 2 weeks. Totally ridiculous. I reject the whole idea, as you would have heard in previous episodes. The lack of plan by most governments. Hey, what are you doing? You know, what's the plan? What are we aiming for? They don't disclose it. And then the medical advice that the chief health officers come out with, no one ever sees what that advice is and the scientific basis for that. I mean, has science gone out the window? I think it has, because if males and females aren't males and females, then what is? I reject that notion that there's 10, 20, 30 genders. There have also been some interesting court cases. One of them is a Victoria Cross winner, Ben Roberts-Smith. He claims to have been defamed. And what's intriguing about this court case is courts have to consider all these different factors and come to a decision. And part of the problem is that the quality of judges makes a massive difference to the judgments that end up being given. And I'm, as an experienced lawyer, as being experienced in life, I am exceedingly disappointed in the quality of many judges, in the skill levels of many judges, in their ability to judge what legal matters. And one particular example of that is the ridiculous judgment of a guy called Mordecai Bromberg, a Melbourne judge in the federal court, and his judgment in relation to the obligation of governments in relation to climate change matters. It got global reporting. It is bullshit. I put on the record what he said will be absolutely knocked out on appeal, but he got his moment of fame. He is an absolute left-wing judge who brings his left-wing philosophy into many of his judgments. I am appalled by his behaviour. And he's a judge. And what that does is bring our legal system into disrepute, as does the behaviour of governments. And the problem is something called the rule of law. When you no longer honour and trust the law, society breaks down. And this is an ephemeral thing, this rule of law. It is people's respect for the law. It is a system where if a policeman says something, then you believe what the policeman says. The court believes what the policeman says because the police respect the law and the public respects the police, and they respect the police because you can rely on a policeman telling the truth. Now that we're getting all this political interference in the legal process, the respect for the rule of law, the respect for the law, and therefore the rule of law diminishes, and that diminishes all of us. The other area of life that's been getting a lot of airtime in Australia and around the world is the impact on the mental health of people of these ridiculous lockdowns and the ridiculous response to this pandemic that I call a scamdemic. And the more that I read, the more I say this is a scamdemic, everybody. That is my position, and I'll happily have a debate with anybody about it. The issue of mental health and the impact of lockdowns, the calculations that governments are supposed to do. Oh, we might save some lives, but of course, under this vaccine regime, which is not a vaccine but an mRNA jab regime. It said, oh no, you're going to be locked down until you get this jab. This jab, if you look at the FDA authorization to administer this jab has not been formally approved. This is a risky process, and it is gene technology, is playing with your genetic makeup. It is inserting a product into your body that changes the way your cells function. And it hasn't been approved. And it's said that if you have this, then we can all go back to normal. No, we can't. And the power that is being given to governments because people are scared, and then the impact on children, our future. Kids are terrified, and then the psychological impact, because I'm talking about handling disappointments this week. Well, that's part of your psychology of how you handle disappointment. And so if you've had a year and a half of lockdown, when you're in your teens, early 20s, you haven't been able to be with your friends, crucial element to that, the cost of that is immense globally. And we haven't seen the numbers, what I've called in earlier episodes, we haven't seen the government thinking in Victoria, in Australia, and internationally, of the deaths of despair. Deaths of despair. So all these issues are the stuff that's going on in the mainstream media, in the alternative media, and they are the matters that exercise my mind. But in the meantime, Julie and I, you'll be pleased to know, have been exercising. And I tell you that because I hope you have been exercising as well. You've got to keep this machine in great shape so you can handle all of the challenges of life that we have. And I'm going to talk about some of those challenges, but before I do, I invite you to visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. Covest.com is about corporate programs, team programs, public programs, and then charlescovest.com is about the self-awareness and passion quest. So if you receive emails from me, you will hear about those masterclasses. Come to one of those masterclasses. There is such important information and 15 tools that I share with you. Next invitation I send, come along. My books are available on the website, Passionate People Produced. My first book, published by Hay House, Passionate Performance, my second book. You can get hold of the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest Manifesto by simply asking for it. You can subscribe to Passion Points to Ponder, and you can also get in touch with me to make any suggestions for any thoughts that you have, ideas, any great jokes you want me to share on this show. Always open to good jokes. So, to today's big idea, handling your disappointments. This is a crucial skill for you to develop. You will be disappointed in life. I am disappointed in so many aspects of my life in my journey. When I look back, gosh, the number of times that I have been disappointed in others, disappointed in circumstance, disappointed in myself. Disappointments are an inherent part of life, and how you handle your inevitable disappointments will change your experience of life. I'm going to share with you 8 really useful ways to handle disappointments. These are the 8 ways, at least 8 ways. I'm sticking it to 8 because otherwise it'll just go on too long. But I promise you these 8 work. There you are, coffee. That handles one of my disappointments. Now, being disappointment. Funny word, isn't it? Because the opposite of disappointment would seem to be appointment. I'm appointed. It's like disgruntled. You see, you can be disgruntled, so if I'm happy, I must be gruntled. I love wordplay, but anyway, disappointment. Stuff happens. Some people call it shit. Shit happens. It's one of the great 2-word posters, isn't it? Shit happens. And it does. It happened to my parents when they were forced to leave their homeland of Hungary after the war because the communists came. Shit happens. Thank God they chose Australia. I love being in Australia. I would hate to be in Canada. I mean, Canada has some wonderful features, but gosh, I much prefer to be in Australia than Canada. Jordan Peterson, well known around the world. For those who don't know about him, look him up. Jordan B. Peterson. He has a great idea in his book. He says life is difficult. I think he's right. I think life is difficult. Not many people have an easy life. Now, I'm sure you know some people who do, but if you take 0.1% of the world's population of 8 billion, okay, 0.1%, 8 billion, that adds up to 8 million human beings. So we could have 8 million stories about people for whom life is easy, but for most of us, life is difficult. It's a challenge. And that has to be a starting point to go, hey, this is not meant to be easy. Life is not meant to be easy. And that would seem to be the evidence. Your experience of life very much depends on your perspective, on your mindset. And as I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking about my disappointments. I want to share some of them with you. I used to be known as the heartbreak kid. In my teens and early 20s, I fell in love so many times, and I had my heart broken so many times. And then I realised, how do you get tender-hearted? Well, or how do you get tender meat? You have to pummel the shit out of it. Well, or how do you become open-hearted? Well, you have to break the heart open, don't you? I've been disappointed many times in relation to my darling 5th child. Disappointment in terms of what I want to do versus my daughter's mother who wants other things. That's a disappointment on many occasions. I'm disappointed when I have a great marketing idea that doesn't work. I take all these steps, invest all this money, and it doesn't work. I'm disappointed in divorces. I'm delighted to be married to Julie, but I'm disappointed in my behaviour and the part that it played in being divorced. Life would have been so much easier not to be divorced. Julie would say that as well. However, there's going to be remind me to bring it up, please, audience. And if I don't, then I'm sure my wonderful producer, director, Julie, will tell me that I haven't brought it up about divorces. I'm disappointed in many ideas that I've had that have not succeeded. I'm disappointed in people around me who didn't behave how they said they would or how I expected them to behave. I could go on hundreds and hundreds of examples of where I've been disappointed. As I'm going through those disappointments, I hope you're thinking about your disappointments. And the question is, how do we handle these disappointments? And I want to share with you 8 practical, useful ways that I use. And I've been thinking, as I've been preparing this, how do I handle my disappointments? Because I've had a lot, because I have a go. I take the risk. I'm a risk taker. And by taking risks, I am often disappointed. So here goes. Number 1. If you believe in God, now, I know some of you don't, so you just go to the universe. But God might have a big picture game for you. It might be part of God's purpose that what you think you want, that you didn't get, about which you're disappointed, that's not part of God's plan for you. So for those of you who believe in God, God might have a different plan. Secondly, I have learnt, and I initially learnt this idea from John Demartini, and I honour him for teaching it to me, that every experience has benefits and drawbacks. So that when I'm disappointed in an outcome or in an event, I know there's benefits and drawbacks, an equal number of benefits and drawbacks. So that when I'm disappointed, I go, I wonder what the benefits are. I'm disappointed, but I wonder what the benefits are of this event, this issue that has disappointed me. What are the benefits? There are benefits. And then I list them. The third way then is to focus on those benefits, not to focus on the drawbacks, not to focus on the disappointment, but to focus on the benefits. And it's a way that you train your mind to go right instead of left, choosing where you focus. The fourth way to handle disappointment is to protect your self-confidence, because if you get caught up in all of these disappointments, you then berate yourself. You say, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And then you get less and less confident. And there are many people, as life goes on, they become disappointed. They lose their self-confidence. They let the disappointments squash their confidence. And the idea I want to put to you is, if you look at Between My Hands, if you're watching on YouTube, if Between My Hands is all of the knowledge on the universe, any one of us only knows a tiny amount. And when you hold that idea, the most genius person on the planet only knows a tiny amount of all human knowledge. Nobody knows precisely what you know. And when you look at that, it's just amazing how little each one of us knows. And therefore, you can tell yourself, be confident, because you don't have to know it all. You are expected to be disappointed because you don't know it all. And so that enables you to protect this crucial resource of your self-confidence. Have another go. That's how you get better. It's called practice. Practice the game of life. The fifth way to handle disappointment is that if life was too easy, you wouldn't grow. If things are too easy, you develop no capacity, no competence, no capability. Embrace difficult, because that's helping you learn and grow. And it is through learning and growing that the greatest joys of life happen. Tony Robbins beautifully says it. He says, progress equals happiness. So if it's all too easy, you wouldn't be progressing and you wouldn't be happy. The sixth way to handle disappointment is think about the possibility of reincarnation. You know, I love the idea of reincarnation. Don't know whether I believe it. I might. But billions of people on the planet do. And if there is reincarnation, then look on this life as a practice run for the next one. So, when you're practicing, you're not meant to get it all right every time. So you go, wow, this is an interesting game that's happening to me. The seventh way to handle disappointment is let go of attachment to results. Have a goal. I have many goals, a lot of goals. I must do a session on goal setting. I haven't done one for quite a while. I've got so many goals. I'm pursuing those goals. But I've learnt to let go of attachment to results. That's why success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. It is not the achievement of the goals that is success, it's the progressive realization of a big worthy ideal. Because when I get a goal, then I create a new one. And then I haven't achieved my goal, then I'm working on my next goal. If I let go of attachment to results, this silly idea that I'll be happy when, let that go. And in my book, Passionate People Produce, in the first chapter, I quote from Neale Donald Walsch's Conversations with God, that letting go of attachment to results is the most beautiful way to live life. Embrace this gift that we have. Pursue your goals, pursue the results that you want, but let go of attachment to those results. Have a read of my book. It's a powerful idea. Have a read of Neale Donald Walsch. He's got a series of books on conversations with God. I found them to be very powerful. That is, in fact, the book of the week. Any of the 1, 2, or 3 versions, in fact there might even be more, that are available. And the 8th way is the gratitude exercise, is gratitude. Be grateful for life. Be grateful for this gift of life that we have. Live your life in a state of gratitude. And so when the disappointment comes, you go, okay, I'm grateful. In the gratitude exercise, if you are feeling down and struggling, you write down 10 things that you are most grateful for. by hand, not type it. Write it in a notebook. I'm grateful that that I have healthy kids. I'm grateful that I live in Australia. I have such a long list of things that I'm grateful for. When I look at that list, when I write it out, if I'm feeling down, which is very rare, it immediately brings me back into this magnificent state. And go, okay, that disappointment happened, on we go. These 8 ways work. You will be disappointed. Stuff happens. Shit happens. These 8 ways take the sting out of the stuff that happens. Practice it. Let me know how you get on. That then leads me to some humour, because I've been dealing with disappointment, and one of the great humourists that I love is Steve Reich, the American dark comedian. You know, and he's got this great line. He says, "This guy asked me, how do you feel?" And I said, well, you know when you're sitting on a chair and you lean back so you're just on 2 legs, then you lean too far and you almost fall over, but at the last millisecond you catch yourself? I feel like that all the time. He says, right now I'm having amnesia and deja vu at the same time. I think I've forgotten this before. This guy asked me if I knew what time it was. I said, yes, but not right now. And the last one, I put tape on the mirrors in my house so I don't accidentally walk through into another dimension. Have a look at some Steve Wright quotes, because that's another way to handle disappointment. There you are, there's a bonus number 9. Read some comedy. My song, I've got 2 songs for the week, you know, that both of them are relevant to this handling disappointment. By Fred Astaire, Pick Yourself Up, Dust Yourself Off, Start All Over Again. Will you remember the famous men who had to fall to rise again? So take a deep breath, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again. And there's another telling line relevant to what I shared with you. Don't lose your confidence if you slip. Be grateful for a pleasant trip. Isn't that a good line? Don't lose your confidence if you slip. And then Louis Armstrong's song, What a Wonderful World. Listen to that song and think about what's wonderful in your world. What fills you with wonder? My quote for the week is the Theodore Roosevelt quote. The famous quote, the credit belongs to the man who's having a go. Look up that quote. It's a long quote. It's a powerful quote. The credit belongs for you being in the ring, having a go. My spiritual tip for you is to look at your life and think about, gosh, if your soul, if your spirit has set it up at a spiritual level for you to have the disappointment, ask the question of yourself, what's the purpose of my soul in me being disappointed in that event? And it takes you out of the stuff here, and you experience life in a whole new way. And my health tip is intermittent fasting. You need a rest when you have hard physical exercise, when you have hard mental exercise. Your insides need a rest from food. Intermittent fasting is a proven wonderful way to help your body recover, because digesting food takes energy. Intermittent fasting, give it a go. Well, that's it for this week. I've gone a little bit longer than normal. I hope you use some or all of these tips that I've given you to handle disappointment. They will take the sting out of stuff that happens. Go and visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. Ask me for the manifesto, the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest manifesto. Sign up for Passion Points to ponder. I hope I've provoked you with some new ideas, some new insights, some new thoughts. And until next week, may your week be full of fun, passion, challenge, and disappointments that you overcome. And as you practice overcoming disappointments, they will have less and less impact on you, so that each day you embrace, enjoy, and are grateful for this magnificent gift of life that you have, that I have, that Julie has. Thanks for being with us. I look forward to being with you next week. Bye.